Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today, we are going to react to why are there no bridges in East London? All right, so I'm going to beat a dead horse. If you've been here before, I've told you guys I've been to London in the last 2 months and pretty much traversed the entire landscape of outside of London, inside London. Stayed there for about 10 days. I know, that's not an incredible amount of time, but still, I think that's a really good sample size of understanding London. And this is an interesting question by our good friend Jay. Now, Jay Foreman, why are there no bridges or in East London? I think what he's referencing, of course, is things east of the Tower Bridge. Now, we watched the video, of course, on the Tower Bridge, and the Tower Bridge is pretty much east relative to Westminster and the main downtown area comparatively to the rest of London. So I'm kind of interested. By the way, Jay Foreman, go subscribe to his channel. A very amazing, entertaining, educating channel, and you're going to see some today. Of course, I have not reacted to this video. I have not watched this video, so this is going to be 100% natural. So let's jump into it and see why there are no bridges in East London. And my initial thought is tradition and sea, like fisheries, something like that. Let's go.
In West London, you're spoilt for choice for ways to cross the River Thames.
But in East London, the Thames...
Yeah, let's get that map back up.
West London, you're spoilt for choice for ways to cross the River Thames.
Yeah, by the way, I stayed in Hammersmith, and I think this... Yeah, that's where I stayed in Hammersmith when I went. I could not remember where I stayed last time, but it was Hammersmith. You can see what we're talking about. There's also a few more bridges past Chelsea, the Westminster Bridge, and then all the way up to Tower Bridge. Let's keep watching.
But in East London, the Thames is your wet nemesis. Your only options to cross are queue for ages for the Blackwall Tunnel,
The Blackwall Tunnel.
go the huge long way round and pay the toll for the Dartford crossing, or get seasick on the so slow it's literally never worth it Woolwich Ferry.
That's a horrible bunch of options. Is it more rural this way?
This gives poor East London quite the disadvantage.
Despite the very short distance as the crow flies, if you live here, it's very unlikely you go to work or school or do your shopping or visit friends here.
Yeah, that's true. It's like different kingdoms at this point.
Unless you're a crow.
Greater London effectively operates like a Pac-Man with a whacker wide gap between these isolated communities.
So how did London end up so unfairly asymmetrical? In other words, why is West London better than East London? Dun, 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 dun. Basically, there are three reasons why it's easier to build bridges in West London than East London.
1. Geography. In the west, the River Thames is a narrow, squiggly trickle where bridge building is
So it's a lot wider, isn't it?
easy. But by the time it gets to London Bridge, it becomes a wide, majestic
Look at just how it trickles up. It's crazy.
estuary with massive tides and marshy floodplains. Lest we forget, the Romans built London Bridge where they did, specifically because it was the widest place they could build it.
The narrowest or the widest?
2. Shipping. In the late 19th century, when London did most of its growing, it was the biggest shipping port in the world, making bridge building east of the ports practically impossible.
True.
Literally only bridge in
We talked about this.
East-ish London, Tower Bridge, was an incredible feat of construction. So impressive it merited its own episode. Its elaborate brute force engineering and massive cost were justified by its iconic location. A huge gateway to the heart of London for those
With the draw. So interesting. So interesting.
arriving by boat.
And we reacted to that video as well, so go check that one out.
If they wanted to build any more bridges in East London, every one of them would have to be bigger or more complicated than Tower Bridge.
I said do it. What's good with one Tower Bridge when we can have 7?
And that wasn't going to happen because 3. No demand.
Historically, East London has always been
But you have to have the supply for the right?
poorer and more sparsely populated than West London, with no rich people to pay tolls and no important people to complain. So not only was it more effort to build
crossings
here, it wasn't worth the effort. However, that all started to change at the end of the 19th century.
In the decades since the disastrous Thames Tunnel, the Victorians had learnt some lessons.
Oh, you saw that. That was fun.
And had become rather good at digging.
Having figured out how to build miles of railways underground, all they
And that's true. Like the underground. Like if you've been there, you know the underground is the most like common use of transportation for Londoners. You go through one tube, you end up on the other side of the city, You could traverse the entire city in the tube in like 15-20 minutes, or you can cross to the Thames in just a couple of minutes.
What they had to do was exactly the same thing under the river.
So at the end of the 19th century, using the same technology as the
This the boring technique, or this? Oh no, this is the same technique they did with the Tower Bridge.
tube, London got its very first road tunnels, one at Blackwall and one at Rotherhithe.
With demand still rising and East London's population
I misspoke.
still growing, these should have been the start of a tunnel revolution spreading eastwards along the Thames throughout the 20th century. So why didn't that happen? It's a story that's been told so many times I'm getting bored of it now. Basically, the war.
First the First World War and second the Second World War put a stop to all big public projects. And when the wars were over, the money had run out, and it never really came back.
And so, the 20th century saw pretty much no new river crossings in London.
Apart from the Greenwich and Woolwich foot tunnels, which don't really count because they're just foot tunnels.
And those both started. I mean, those dates are before World War One.
Chiswick and Twickenham bridges, both part
Okay, so this is in the years right before World War Two.
to the same road, opened on the same day in 1933. A second Blackwall tunnel, which doesn't really count because it's
That was a lot. Blackwall Tunnel 2, Faster and More Furious. Fast and Furious?
just a widening of the first, and the Dartford Tunnel, which became two Dartford Tunnels, which became two Dartford Tunnels, and the QE2 Bridge, which also doesn't really count because it's in not London. London found itself frozen in this asymmetrical state for more than a century. This asymmetry gives the river a completely different character depending which side of London you're on. In the west, the river brings prosperity and flats with views and gastropubs and university boat races. But in the east, the river brings...
I mean, you're also, it's no tourist area here. So you gotta say that most of Greater London's going to have more of a tourism feel. You're gonna have more sparkles on the buildings. You're gonna have more riverside attractions.
By the end of the 20th century, the shipping industry that prevented any crossings being built here in the first place had all but disappeared, leaving behind a string of post-industrial literal dead ends, largely untouched by regeneration or your thoughts.
The exception that proves the rule is Canary Wharf, which since the 80s has seen a rebirth as a business district full of
Has no one ever thought to try to do anything to fix this? Yes, they have, ages ago.
In the 1970s, plans were afoot for a long-awaited pill to close Pac-Man's mouth, the boringly named the East London River Crossing.
That's hilarious.
By this time, technology had moved on, and bridges had once again overtaken tunnels as the more cost-effective way to get cars across a river.
The bridge formed part of the notorious plans for new motorways in London called ringways.
On the north side, the roads were more than ready for the arrival of the new bridge.
You can clearly see on satellite view how the North Circular Road gapes expectantly open wide, ready to send and receive cross-river traffic. But on the south side, it's not clear at all where the traffic was meant to go. The new bridge would have necessitated the construction of a huge 8-lane motorway, bulldozing hundreds of households out of the way.
Maybe not that.
The people of Plumstead were understandably unhappy when the bridge got approval in 1985, but their bacon was rescued by an unlikely saviour.
2 years later, in 1987, the government accidentally built an international airport right next door to the site of the new bridge, which
That's hilarious.
added a maximum height restriction on top of the already restrictive minimum height restriction.
With the bridge needing a complete redesign, that meant going through the approval process all over again. And this time, it failed, and all thoughts of a crossing here were abandoned in 1990.
I mean, it's so weird. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, logistically, it just doesn't make sense to make another bridge here.
But not for long.
In 2004, the Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, proposed an upgrade, or downgrade depending how you look at it, on the same site. The slightly betterly named Thames Gateway Bridge.
Ken's bridge was going to be a local bridge for local people.
There would be just 4 lanes instead of 8, 2 of which would be bus lanes, which had the potential of being turned into an extension for the DLR.
You can see on satellite view that Ken's bridge got quite far in the planning stages too.
Just north of Galleon's Reach, there's a wide concrete flyover that stops mid-air where the connection to his new bridge was
That's pretty cool that that's still there.
going to be.
Environmentally speaking, it was a massive improvement on the monster from the 70s, but there was a major flaw in Ken's concept.
A local bridge for local people was a very naive and completely impossible thing to enforce.
I'm thinking this one, go away!
Ken's bridge could only have been local if it were one of many crossings in East London, so that travellers had lots of options.
Yeah, this is going to be not local. It's going to be the entire everybody.
like how it is in West London. But with East London so far behind, the Thames Gateway Bridge on its own would unavoidably have drawn cars and lorries from all over London, congesting and polluting the narrow residential streets of Plumstead, which in many ways is worse than building a motorway through it.
The Thames Gateway Bridge was indeed designed to be joined later by the Belvedere Bridge and Silvertown Tunnel, but the locals knew that these complementary crossings wouldn't realistically have come to the rescue for decades, if they ever came at all.
For that reason, the Thames Gateway Bridge was viewed as a cause of congestion, and for that...
Is that the SS Belfast? Or the H? Not the H. Is it the HS or the SS? I can't remember. Is that the Belfast?
For that reason, it had almost no support politically or locally. And for that reason, when the next Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, came along, he took the popular and simple decision to scrap it. It was a rather odd move for Boris, a man so famously fond of bridges. Perhaps he just didn't like it because it wasn't his idea.
It's harder than ever to get big projects like bridges funded by the government and/or approved by the locals. That's why all the bridges built this century have been quite a pedestrian affair. So far...
By the way, I'm just curious. For the people that do live in the UK, how do you guys feel about Boris Johnson? I don't really have an opinion.
We've had the Millennium Bridge, which when first opened struggled to take the weight of...
That's pretty cool. That's by the chapel. Not the chapel, the cathedral. And then the art museum on the other side is pretty cool.
Pedestrians, and the Emirates Airline, an expensive over-branded cable car / tourist non-attraction connecting nowhere to nowhere else, inexplicably featured on the tube map despite a grand total of regular users of 4.
A few more pedestrian-only bridges have...
4 regular use. Who would use that?
also been planned and
That's not a tourist.
At Canary Wharf, Wandsworth, Pimlico, and...
No, I can't let y'all slide. Let's slide back a little bit. Who?
It's Airline, an expensive over-branded...
Who is using that? Who said that would be a good... That's a tourist attraction. You cannot tell me that this was a transportation idea. If this was a transportation idea, that person better not have a job. It's crazy. Who's going to take a chairlift to work?
Cable car / tourist non-attraction connecting nowhere to nowhere else.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to be there for another 10 minutes. Why? I'm stuck in this cable car or chair 100 feet up in the air.
Inexplicably featured on the tube map despite a grand...
My bad, meters.
Total of regular users of 4.
A few more pedestrian-only bridges have also been planned and not built.
At Canary Wharf, Wandsworth, Pimlico, and most high profile of all, the profoundly unnecessary Garden Bridge, intended more for private parties and selfies than for travel, which cost £53 million just to cancel.
But these are tourist attractions at best and vanity projects at worst, and they're all in central London. They do nothing to address the fundamental packmanity of Greater London and are quite insulting to East Londoners. So now, 15 years after the Thames Gateway Bridge was cancelled, what's been put on the table to address this? The worst crossing ever proposed.
Right next door to the Blackwall Tunnel, but at a jaunty angle, is the very controversially proposed Silvertown Tunnel.
It's a very odd choice of location, given that it's one of the few parts of East London that already has lots of river crossings, and it's an even odder choice of mode.
Bro.
The Silvertown Tunnel is for
That chairlift just looks so bad.
motor traffic only, with no pedestrians, cyclists or trains allowed. Its purpose is to reduce traffic in the Blackwall Tunnel, which we really should have learnt by now, in real life will encourage more car journeys than before and create more congestion in the whole Blackwall area.
Public opinion is more anti-car than ever, which is why there's a massive campaign against the Silvertown Tunnel.
Yeah, I think London's already starting. I think we saw a couple of videos like this already, where London's kind of moving towards more of like a Singaporean idealism on transportation, more walking. I mean, you already see that with the tube, utilizing a lot of the people that do traffic on foot. And, such a high... And also New York's doing a similar thing as well. They kind of keep cars off the road.
And as for whether it'll ever be built, I don't know.
It's a paradox. East London desperately needs connections, but East London desperately also needs not to be ruined by pollution and congestion. So what on earth could be the solution? There's actually a rather brilliant one.
The two as yet unconnected East Londons are a great opportunity to create ambitious new non-car crossings for rail, trams, cycling and walking.
Ignoring today's demand for new roads and instead providing for journeys that don't exist yet may seem daft and will certainly cause frustration for the first few years, but when the only option to cross is a clean, green, sustainable one, people will take the clean, green, sustainable one in their thousands, and the positive effect will spread well beyond the banks of this river. For proof of how brilliantly this phenomenon works, come with me now to West London.
We're gonna go to the Millennium Bridge, that one?
In 2019, nasty...
That's Hammersmith. I think that's Hammersmith. I'm just gonna put out a guess. That's Hammersmith Bridge.
Cracks were found in the pedestals of Hammersmith Bridge, and the local council abruptly closed it to all traffic after 132 years
That's so funny because it would look just like this. Is this a recent video? It looked just like this.
of service.
Understandably, many local drivers complained, saying it would cause traffic jams. And it did at first, but then an interesting thing happened.
When Hammersmith Bridge reopened in 2021, it assumed a new role as a quiet, pleasant and safe pedestrian and cycle bridge, which has encouraged more journeys by foot and by bike, reducing car journeys and traffic not just in Hammersmith but across West London.
What Hammersmith
That's true. There was not a lot of cars in Hammersmith. There was a lot of cars in like downtown Hammersmith. But a lot of it was taxis and buses, if I think about it.
shows us is that what we choose to build, or indeed choose to don't build, affects how we choose or don't choose to travel. And that's the way round it should be.
You guys look at him like, huh?
The tide is shifting, pun massively intended, in the right direction, away from cars.
The proposed Lower Thames crossing, a scheme to fight cars with cars to try to take traffic out of the Dartford Tunnel, has been roundly rejected by locals.
There's actually been rather a lot of progress for trains lately.
No fewer than 7 new rail crossings have appeared across the Thames in the last 25 years, and there are even more proposed for the future. There's a potential rail link to Thamesmead from the DLR or overground, but probably not both. There's the Kennex tram, a planned tram network around the riverside commuter towns in Kent and Essex linked by a tunnel, which is too far outside London to be taken seriously. And of course, the Elizabeth line is going to open, tomorrow.
That's cool because I rode the Elizabeth line. That's cool. So this video came out in 2022. Okay.
Well, it took 3 videos, but that's pretty much the whole history of the River Thames and how Londoners have crossed it from the Romans to the present day.
That's crazy. So we watched the London Bridge, we watched the Tower Bridge, and now we watch this. We know our bridges in London now.
I find it fascinating how much London's relationship with its river has changed over its long history. It's actually quite sad to think that what started out as a major highway and the lifeblood of London, saturated with boats of all different shapes and sizes, now spends most of its time sitting uselessly empty, a physical and mental barrier between North and South London. But will this trend, like so many others in London's evolving infrastructure, shift back the other way? Are there ways we could put our...
I think he's... By the way, this is Shard behind him. I think he's relatively close to the London Eye, and behind him is Westminster.
river to better use?
The Thames Clippers are starting to transform from an expensive novelty tourist attraction into a reliable commuter service.
Oh yeah, Uber boat. They have Uber boat. Have you ever taken an Uber boat? Let me know.
Maybe they have a future as a no-nonsense integrated part of the city's transport network, like how it is in Sydney, or Brisbane, or Copenhagen, or San Francisco, or Zurich, or Hong Kong, or Amsterdam. Or maybe they'll go completely the other way and drain the River Thames and turn it into a park. It's not that
Oh god, no.
far-fetched an idea. It's exactly what they did to the River Turia in Valencia in 1969, making
Yeah, but not gonna do.
the city safer from flooding and opening up acres of new green space.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
What future technologies lie ahead in the next
But it's such a dangerous game with water supply. A lot of people rely on this water.
1,000 years that could see our river once again becoming a major useful highway? The answer is coming in part 4.
Oh, guys, that was interesting. Oh, if you like videos like this, hit that subscribe button. Also, let me know any videos that you would like to recommend to me to react to. But besides that, I appreciate you guys watching with me this far. Very interesting. London's very interesting. I want to binge watch all of Jay's videos, and I think we're gonna do that. And it's gonna be very niche at some point, where we're just talking about like how London's being reconstructed. Because, hey, I know I beat this with Dead Horse, but when I went 2 months ago, I wouldn't say life changing, but it's just fun. It's just a fun experience. But yeah. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Bye-bye.